Hi, I'm David Preston, and I watch The Watchmen. Almost 2,000 years ago, the Roman poet Juvenal first asked the question, Quis custodius ipsis custodes? Who watches the watchmen? Today, the watchmen are running amok, and we need leadership to find our way back to sanity. Leadership can inspire. Leadership can provide the structure and guidance that helps everyone succeed. But leadership worth trusting comes from a very different source than hierarchical titles and organizational rituals. In fact, real leadership depends on much more than roles. It's an agreement between people. When watchmen miss the call or rely just on their positions and assert themselves beyond the scope of their expertise, such as when school administrators try to govern interactions online or in our personal lives, things tend to go badly. Real leadership depends on more than roles. It depends on informed, active participation. Testing the boundaries of leadership strengthens its legitimacy. If we expect to hold our leaders accountable, we have to communicate exactly what we expect them to be accountable for. When we don't do this, when we fail to think critically, to evaluate credibility, logic, and evidence, to connect and empathize with people who have different information and worldviews than we do, we can't effectively engage our leaders. We can't effectively engage each other. And we don't learn to do this in school. School operates like a medieval church. Anyone who sat through a class or a faculty meeting knows exactly how it feels to silently face the altar and receive the long-winded word of God from someone in a position of power. Reinforcing these kinds of positional power roles is how the watchmen of school have oppressed real learning for generations. They've divided our rich interdisciplinary life into subjects. They've isolated us and killed the Medici effect. They've rung bells and treated us, trained us, like dogs. This hasn't changed. In fact, today's school's love affair with authoritarianism is crumpling personal computing and the internet, the most powerful communications and technological revolutions in human history, into the shapes that didn't work long before the pandemic closed campuses. But now, the effects are getting more intense, and they're reaching further into our lives. Learning's been online, and learning's been in the spotlight online for over a year. So it's worth taking a moment to marinate on this thought. Our global culture is still evolving much faster than school, and our technology is getting smarter and more pervasive. So even as an entire generation of young people is forced to accept cameras everywhere, emerging research is now confirming that algorithms in video conferencing and surveillance software are making everything worse for people who were already marginalized. And being observed has an effect. Remember that last time you were speeding and you looked up and saw the police officer in your rear view? Your sweaty palms, your dry mouth, your silent prayer that you'd never speed again? What effects do you think that the constant presence of the robot eye, whether it's in the classroom or in their homes, has on students? Now, in all the calls for, let's get back to normal, I haven't heard a single person say, oh yeah, I can't wait to have to hold my pee and ask a sarcastic person to say no, or best case, offer me a bathroom pass to go to that place on campus. Every trip to the bathroom at school is a Rashomon story. When we do return to campus, how about we make the bathroom safer instead of making it television? And while we're talking about personal space, give students the right to turn off the damn cameras. This is on us as a community. All of us, educators, parents, employers. We need to stop acting surprised whenever a watchman gets a cookie, a technological tool, and then uses it for purposes way beyond the scope of their role. As the instruments of the watchman become more invasive, they also become more oppressive. No one needs a seating chart or a detention room on Zoom. And who benefits from confusing lighting with skin color, or a younger sibling's voice with a cheating co-conspirator? But the real test of leadership comes when we watch the watchman. Accountability is a popular concept when we're talking about keeping your eyes on your own paper. But what about the publishing, testing, and software corporations that turn learners into intellectual sharecroppers and then snap back when they're questioned or criticized? More than 10 years ago, I began encouraging learners to use the public internet in ways that have become known as open source learning. It was a start. Back then, it was even considered a little edgy. But now, it's harder to tell the learning signals online from the noise. Don't tell him this, but my dog is not a lion. Any more than schools are democratic or innovative just because they're online. Even this video is slightly different than the original presentation at the Connected Learning Summit, because that happened on Clouder. This same content would also be different data if it were on Google Meet or Zoom or WebEx or Microsoft Teams instead of here. Speaking of tools, I used to invite students to explore whatever tools they thought were best for their jobs, for their online or offline jobs. But as the Watchmen got more sophisticated, they extracted more value, so that now data creators are making the freemium platforms more money than ever. This is why I helped launch the Open Source Learning Academy protocol. Students need to own their own permanent identities online. They deserve to own the value of the content that they create. I believe that tools like this will literally restore the value of learning. 2,000 years ago, the Roman poet Juvenal first asked the question, "Quis custodius ipsos custodes?" Who watches the watchman? I work with learners and educators to create a global, free, and public system of education. And I watch the watchman.